So what did we learn? So what did we learn in our previous session? Come on.
We learned about implicit.
We learned about implicit weight, explicit weight, the difference between implicit and explicit, and in explicit weight, we have learned how to use WebDriver weight, right? We have seen examples of applying WebDriver weight using default functions and user-defined functions. We have done both. We have created a user-defined function and as well as expected conditions, usage of expected conditions. These are already present inside Selenium. We are just using that class, that's all. But if we want our own objects, or if we want our own method to return some values or elements, then we are doing this. Okay. All right. Now, in explicit weight, we have another kind of weight called as fluent weight. Okay. Now let's see how do we work with fluent weight. I'm going to copy the common things. I'll create a new class called fluent weight. Explicit weight underscore. There is a small difference between WebDriver weight and fluent weight. Both are used for explicit only, but there is a small difference between both of them. I'll show you what is that. Okay. Now, do you remember what did we get when we run this program yesterday? Do you remember this? Let me run this and show you the console again. GC8. Because where we have to look into.
It will stay 30 seconds till that get its attribute.
30 seconds. Till now we were Bobby, but now we are not. You're on mute. Okay. Now you see the exception of the previous code. Expected condition failed. Waiting for the style to be display this, but it displayed empty. Observe after that, after the reason for failure, just observe something. What is it saying? The highlighted part. It says it tried for 30 seconds with every 500 milliseconds interval. That means what did it do? For 30 seconds, it was trying to check the style, whether the style got changed or not. For every half second, for the 30 seconds. That means it tried this, it checked it, or it verified that the style got display colon none for every half second. That means in 30 seconds, it tried for 60 times. Right? For every second, you have two halves. So for every second, it tried 2 times, and in 30 seconds, it tried for 60 times. Even after checking 60 times, the style attribute, it doesn't change. So what did it do? After 30 seconds, timeout is completed, it threw an exception for us. Right? That is what this is. Tried for 30 seconds with 500 milliseconds interval. Okay. Now, there will be some other cases where you know, or you'll know that within 30 seconds, it is nothing's going to happen. When you click on a button, I know I should wait minimum for a minimum around 30 seconds. Just the data will be displayed. So do you want to still check for every half second when you know that it is going to happen after 30 seconds? Hello? You understood my question or not?
Can you repeat again?
Okay. So if you see here, we were checking the style of the element for 30 seconds, but in that 30 seconds, your selenium was trying or verifying whether the style got changed for every 500 milliseconds. You see, tried for 30 seconds with 500 milliseconds interval. 500 milliseconds is nothing but half a second. So for every half a second, it verified the style attribute until 30 seconds. That means within 30 seconds, it tried 60 times to see the style attribute. Okay. But it did not happen. So after 30 seconds, it threw the exception. But now there is a scenario where we know that when you perform some operation, minimum it is going to take around 20 seconds. For example, it is going to take around 20 seconds to for the next step to happen. We know that within 20 seconds, nothing is going to happen. When you know that it is going to take minimum 20 seconds to happen something, then will you try it for every half second?
No.
We have to wait 20 seconds, right? Not half second. We will not try for half second. We will try for we should try for every 20 seconds, not for every half second. We can try for 5 minutes, but with interval of 20 seconds. For every 20 seconds, we have to check. You understood my point?
Yeah.
So that configuration, we don't have options to update the interval to check the properties or expected conditions in WebDriver wait. Fluent wait helps us configure those things. Fluent wait helps us in changing those settings. Now WebDriver wait by default it will check for every half second. We will not be able to change this in WebDriver wait. But in the scenario we discussed, we want to do it. We don't want to check it for every half second. We want to check for every 20 seconds. So in that case, I cannot use WebDriver. That is the reason we have another class called Fluent Wait. Okay, now, Fluent Wait. Fluent Wait is also from Selenium, so I'm creating it. Fluent Wait. F wait is equals to new Fluent Wait. Okay, this is also going to take we have to pass WebDriver type of object. WebDriver driver. Actually, this was not there in older versions. You can directly mention Fluent, but since this is throwing warnings, I'm adding this. Okay. Now, this is how we create Fluent Wait object. Okay, this will have the same expected conditions and all those things, but some extra things we have. Okay, now that is polling every. You see this? Polling every. There are two methods. One is deprecated, one is the other one. The deprecated one is the old one. This was the old way that we were using, which is taking two inputs. One is how much time you have to wait and what is the time unit. Okay, so the time I have to wait is 5 minutes. 5 minutes is 300 seconds, right? Or simply I can say 5 minutes. It's okay. Time unit dot minutes. Okay, we know. Sorry, this is polling every. Wait dot with timeout. First one should be with the timeout. Okay, I have to wait for 5 minutes until the timeout. Time unit dot minutes. I want to wait for total of 5 minutes. Okay, for total of 5 minutes. And I don't want to check every half second. If I don't mention this, it is going to perform the same verification in same type of verification. It is going to verify for every half second, but I don't want to verify it for every half second. I want to verify it for 20 seconds, right? So here, I make a time unit dot seconds. Okay, and within this 5 minutes, it should not throw any exception, right? After 5 minutes only, it should throw the exception. So that is why we have to use another one called ignoring all. Ignoring all, I will mention exception dot class. So this is how we use Fluent Wait. So we are configuring how much time it should wait, that is with timeout. After 5 minutes only, it should go timeout. Then it should verify for every 20 seconds, not for every half second. Polling every is used to verify, or polling every is used to tell the Selenium that when should it verify. Within this 5 minutes, when should it verify? 5 minutes will be too long to show you the example, so I'll make it 1 and then let it be 20. In 1 minute, it is going to verify for every 20 seconds, and after 1 minute, it is going to throw the. Okay, now let us see this wait dot until, and the rest all will be same. Expected conditions dot attribute to be, we have read already, so I'm going to use the same attribute to be. I'm just copying the same previous code. Now if I run this, you will observe it. Now you remember the previous exception, right? Tried for 30 seconds with 500 milliseconds interval. Okay. Now let's run this Fluent Wait and see. We have to wait for 1 minute because I've given the 1 minute timeout. Let's see after the minute. Yeah, 1 minute is done. And now you see the expected condition failed. I'll drag it. Now you see, what is it saying? I'm sorry. You see that? Tried for 60 seconds, which is 1 minute, with every 20,000 milliseconds interval. That means in 60 seconds, how many times did it try? Only 3 times. At 20 seconds, at 40 seconds, and at 60th second, right? You understood the difference? Previous one, we do not have options to change this. How much time should it be, at what intervals it should try? But in Fluent Wait, we have an option called polling every. With the polling every method, we will be able to tell the Selenium code after how much time you should re-verify whether it is happening or not. That is just Fluent Wait. Understood? Is that clear?
So you're saying like after you change to 60 seconds, that millisecond also changes. That's what he's saying, right?
No. I haven't run the previous code. My previous code is this, where I am just mentioning the timeout. After 30 seconds, it is timing out. But in Fluent Wait, we are mentioning the timeout as 1 minute, which is nothing but 60 seconds. So that means it is going to wait for that expected condition for 1 minute. Okay. But within that 1 minute, by default, WebDriver wait was checking for every half second, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Now I don't want to check for every half second. I want to check that for every 20 seconds, because I know that within 20 seconds, nothing is going to happen. If something is going to happen, that is happening only after the 20th second.
Okay.
So should I try for every half second in the first 20 seconds as well?
No.
No. So that is the reason I want to change that default timeout 500 milliseconds to some different polling. Okay, I am going to check. So I want to change that duration. So that is why I used the polling every method, and I used 20 seconds. So that with this, what I'm telling to Selenium is you have to wait for 1 minute. But in that 1 minute, please don't check for every half second. Please check only after 20 seconds. After 20 seconds every time. So you check at 20th second, then you check at 40th second. You are giving 20 seconds gap for each verification. I mean, each verification means for this verification. Within a minute, you are trying it 3 times with 20 seconds gap. You understood?
Okay, I get it.
Okay. Now, within this wait, I mean, within this 1 minute, this element might not be found, or this style attribute might not change. So I don't have to throw this exception 3 times for every. If I remove this, it will throw the exception 3 times whenever it is verifying. Okay. I don't want to throw the exception 3 times. I want to throw the exception only when this 1 minute is completed, right? So that is why I added one more line. Wait dot ignoring exception dot class. Okay. Understood? So here it is waiting for 1 minute. Within 1 minute, I am going to check for every 20 seconds. That means at 20th second, at 40th second, and at 60th second. Okay. And within this 1 minute, or within these 3 times, I don't want to throw any exceptions. I want to throw only after 1 minute. So that is why I have to add this line. Is that clear?
Yes, Nikhil.
Okay. Now you see these two methods, with timeout and polling every, are deprecated. That means these methods, deprecated means see, people who are using Selenium will use different versions of Selenium, right? Throughout the globe, whoever is using Selenium, they might have started this their project at a long back, and they might be using older versions of Selenium. So in that case, I want to remove a particular method, or if I want to change a particular method from the Selenium, if I directly remove that method, everybody has to face some issues, right? Because they have to change their method name in their code. Agree? So that is the reason. What does these people will do is they will add a annotation called deprecated. So that indicates, I mean, if you see any methods with these striked out lines, then that means these methods are going to be removed from Selenium sooner or later. Okay, they are not going to be present in the Selenium library. So why? So in that case, what we should do? We should see the alternate method for this method. Okay, you understood? So these two methods are deprecated now, because they have implemented a new way of using this with timeout and polling everything. Okay, now let me show you that. The same Fluent Wait will be there. dot with timeout. You see here earlier we used this, which is having a dot and a line here. That means it is deprecated. Okay. Since it is deprecated, we don't have to use it. And there is another method which is not deprecated or which is recently added from the same fluent weight class, which is taking only duration. You don't have to mention the number and then time unit. You can just mention this duration. So that is of type duration. Right? Duration dot. Okay. Duration of minutes. You see, these are all the methods which are present in the duration class. Now I want to wait for a minute, right? With timeout, duration of minutes. How many minutes? 1. Half minutes is a method which is taking a parameter. But here, without is the method which is taking the timeout and time units. But here, duration class or this method with timeout is taking only a duration type of object. You see here, duration type of object. And so we are passing a duration type of object and we are calling a method for it. So this half minutes is also going to return a duration only. You see, half minutes is returning a duration type. You see, half minute method which is taking input as long, but it is returning what type of object? Duration type of object. And that duration of the type of object is needed for with time. So we are using that duration. This is the new way of using with timeout. And similarly with polling every. Polling every. There are two methods. One is deprecated, the old way, and this is the new way. We are passing duration. Duration dot of seconds. How many seconds? 1. That's all. And then there is no change in ignoring. That's all. You understood the difference between the old way and new way? Right? These are the old methods which are deprecated. So that is the reason these are the methods that we are going to use with time and polling. It is old way was accepting 2 parameters, but new way is accepting only 1 parameter. Understood?
Yes.
Now here, if you see, I've created a WebDrive. I mean, I have created a weight object for fluent weight, and then I'm using always weight dot, right? Now there is a way that I do not need to use this weight dot. Yeah, just comment this. Just for explaining the other one. Okay. These are the two ways that we can use this weight. Every time I'm using weight dot. But if I remove this semicolon, then I can use directly like this with timeout, duration dot half seconds. Sorry, half seconds, 60. Yeah, instead of minutes, I'm using half seconds, and then dot polling every duration dot of seconds and say 20, and then dot and then I can add a semicolon. See, this is also another way of writing fluent weight, where I can use these dots and then append all the methods at the same line. If Java sees a semicolon, then it assumes that it's the end of the statement. So I did not add a semicolon here. So it is assuming that, okay, we are going to have few more statements. Then we are adding all these things. And at the end of this, I added a semicolon. Understood? Is that clear? 3 different ways of using fluent weight. Old way, the methods are deprecated, which are taking 2 parameters, and new way, we are passing the duration type of object to the methods. And short way or shorthand notation is we are using without using the object name, we are adding or appending these methods to the same statement. Is that clear? Nothing changes. Nothing changes. Just the way we look, or just the way we write the code is changed. That's all. The behavior will be still the same. Is that clear? Hello.
Nikhil, I don't know about the other two.
What? You don't know what Bobby told. I didn't hear anything. So that's the reason I'm asking again. You didn't understand or you understood? Shut up, Yanji.
Yes, I did.
Okay. He got a message from I did. Okay. Cool. Fine then. So this is all with the synchronization. And then we have one more thing that is not the synchronization technique of Selenium, but that is from Java, which is, I think we already used once or twice here, thread.sleep. Where did I use it? Somewhere, for some reason we used, right? In which class did I use it? Yep, here. For working with drop downs, I used thread.sleep, right? Do you remember 3 seconds to show that this is selecting multiple values, and also to see whether the values are getting changed or not? We have used thread.sleep. So what is this thread.sleep? This is also making our script to hold on for 5 seconds, right? So what is this thread.sleep? This thread.sleep is not from Selenium. This thread.sleep is a method which is from Java. Okay, so if you observe here, explicit wait, we are waiting, we are applying some conditions, and we are waiting for some element to change some attribute. If this is happening within this 60 seconds, at any point of time, we are switching to the next line. But if we use this thread.sleep, it is hard wait. Whatever might be the whether the page is loaded, whether the element is present, whether something is changed, whatever might happen, this will still wait for 5 seconds. It is not going to verify, or it is not going to check any condition. Okay, it is a hard wait. It is also called as hard wait. Thread.sleep. It is going to by default stop the execution for 5 seconds. Just to stop the execution. That's all. Okay, is that clear? So these are the different types of synchronization techniques that we use in Selenium. One is implicit wait, which we apply at the driver level, and the other is explicit wait, which we apply at element level. We can apply some conditions, and in that explicit wait, we are having two different types: WebDriver wait and Fluent wait. WebDriver wait, we do not have options to change the polling time, whereas in Fluent wait, we have options to change the polling time. And the other and last but not the least is thread.sleep. This is not from Selenium, this is from Java. And Java, this helps us to wait blindly for 5 seconds. We are not verifying, or we are not saying anybody that we are waiting for this reason, but we are just waiting. That's all. Understood? If this is done, then I can go to the next topic.
Nikhil, one question. Let's
Yes.
say that the things which are not from Java, let's say the syntax which are from Selenium, is that gonna be work with the other? Let's say I'm testing on the basis of Python. So does that gonna work same, or like it's will be feel different?
The working behavior will be same everywhere. If you are using Fluent wait, then you have to give these things only everywhere. But there might be some small changes in the syntax wise. Right here, what do we do to represent the end of a statement? We use semicolon. In Python, it might be different, or in JavaScript or in VB script, it might be different. In VB script, we don't need these things. In Ruby, it might be separate, right? Only the syntax changes, but the working behavior of this is same.
Okay. Got it.
Working behavior is same, but the syntax might be different. See here, to create a new object of that particular class, we are using the keyword called a new. There might be something different, right? So that kind of differences will be there, but the working behavior, it doesn't change.
But this is Selenium language, right? I mean, like,
No, this is still Java language, but we are using the methods from Selenium Selenium package
oh,
or Selenium
okay,
library.
okay.
That's all. We are working only on Java. There
Okay,
is
got it.
no separate compiler for Selenium code to be executed. We are writing in Java. This is Java only. But these methods with timeout, polling every, and fluent wait, these are all coming from Selenium library. You see here, org.openqr.selenium. That's all. That is the only difference. This is from where? Selenium.support.ui. That is because we added some libraries in the beginning. Do you remember? These libraries. We downloaded one file, Selenium language bindings, and then we added into this, right? In the beginning setup, we have discussed this. So when you added that libraries, these methods became available for our code to access. If you see, this fluent wait is coming from org.openqr.selenium.support.ui. Now, if you see here, you will see here org.openqr.selenium.support. You see here, selenium.support.ui. This is the package. In
Okay,
this
so my
package, we have the
question,
class.
my question is like, let's say this Fluent Wait, it is gonna use for like other language too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll show you one thing, then it might get some clarity for you. Selenium dot going here. So when we want to download it, we want to work with Java. What did we do? We downloaded this, right? Language binding. Okay. Now, if you want to work with Python, then you have to download this. Okay. So in this, it will have the same packages, same classes, and everything same. But see, for Java to understand, you need Java classes, right? You see here, this class is extension with Java. I mean, this is dot class, but you see the icon, there is J on it, right? Are you able to see it here on the file icon? That is Java. But when you download Python, then these will be not dot class files. They will be dot py files. Right? Python, we write code. Then if we save it, it will be in dot py format. Okay. Okay, I'll show you. If you go to this API docs, you can see the methods inside it. You see, Selenium package API. Now you see, again, it will have the same packages. Safari. Where are they? Okay. Common. These are all the packages with, okay. WebDriver support.wait. If I go inside this, you will again have until method. You see, WebDriver wait method, right? The same method, WebDriver wait, which is taking the driver object, and then here, see, the method is changed. The WebDriver wait itself is asking poll every. You see this? You understood? That's all.
Yes.
Everything is same. We are still using WebDriver wait. We are still using until. You see, element WebDriver date driver comma 10 seconds, and we are applying some condition until. So everything is same. They used lambda. We wrote our own function. Okay, this is Python, right? So that is why you are seeing it different. But same again, WebDriver wait class, and then you are passing the driver and you are passing the timeout seconds. Understood? Now, is that clear, your doubt?
Yes, Nikhil, yes, got it.
So it will be same, but there it will be from separate package, selenium.webdriver.support.wait. In our Java, they have written it inside org.openqr.selenium.support.ui. That's all. That is the only difference. But rest all the functionality is same. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the next topic, which is about dealing with frames. Okay, so on web pages there will be something new that is called as frames. Okay, now let's see that. Okay, I think we already wrote some code for frames as well, where we were discussing about multi-select. Yes. So multi-select, if you observe here, I did one extra operation and I told we will discuss this later, right? Do you remember that or you forgot about it?
Yes, we remember.
So this I told we will discuss it later when we are discussing about frames. Now let's go to this URL. I'll go to this URL. Now we are going to discuss about the frames concept. Okay. Now the code is in this place. Okay. Now if I right click and inspect, there won't be any change in the way you see the elements inside the HTML page, but there will be some change or some extra elements that is added. You see here, iframe. There is an extra tag called iframe. You see that, right? Are you able to see this iframe?
Yes, yes, Nikhil,
Okay.
yes.
So why is this iframe is present in between, and why do you see again a HTML tag? See, generally HTML, when it is started, you will see the HTML and then you will have head and body. That is what I told you, right? Everything, whatever the code you write, it should be inside a HTML, and HTML has head and body. Okay, that is fine. Then inside the body, again you see a HTML head and body. That means what? HTML inside a HTML, right? You're understanding my point? We are having a HTML document. This is again a document, you see, different, separate HTML document. We're having another HTML document in our HTML document, right? This is our HTML document. Now in our HTML document, we are having another HTML document. Why? What is the purpose of using these iframes, and why should we bring another HTML document into our HTML? This is like our Java methods. Okay. Why do we write methods? To make it easy to use or to make it easy to call from wherever we want. If you observe this, you see, I'm not writing the properties of this driver always. I'm not setting these things. I wrote this method in one of the class, and each of the class, wherever, whatever the code I'm writing, I'm just calling that method, right? So does this get driver method, I mean, does this mean I'm writing everywhere that same method, or am I calling that method? I wrote once and I'm calling it every time. You understood, right? So once we write a method, we will be able to call anywhere. Agree? In a similar way, I want to reuse a HTML code. How can I do? So I will separate in a small HTML document. I will write all the code in a small HTML document. Okay. Now there is a problem. This is another HTML document and this is another HTML document. Then how do I bring this HTML document? How do I make Java understand that this is a child HTML or this is a HTML that I'm bringing from other place? To make that happen, we are going to use iframe tag. Understood? Is that clear?
Yes.
To bring another HTML file and load in our HTML file, we use this iframe tag. So that if you want to use this frame in a separate in another pages also, then I can use it as it is. I can copy, I can call this iframe, and then I can get another HTML document displayed in our HTML document. To make another HTML document display in our HTML, then we have to use iframe tag. Okay. Is that clear? What is iframe?
Yeah.
Oh, now, so Selenium by default, when we are, okay, I think I have a pin. Can you repeat, please? Okay, Bobby. So, if I'm explaining again from the scratch, we wrote some method, right? Get driver, which is in the intro class, where we are letting the Selenium or Java compiler know that which property we have to set, whether it is Chrome, whether it is Firefox, whether it is Edge or default. We are setting the property name and we are also returning the driver. Okay. Now this method I am using in every class. You see, get driver, and I'm passing this parameter so that it is performing the all the operations and it is returning me the driver. The same I'm doing in another class. The same I'm doing in another class. Everywhere I'm just calling that method, right? Why? I don't want to write these lines of code every day because it is already there, right? So what is the advantage that I'm getting? A reusability of the code by calling this method, right? In a similar way, in Java, we are creating some methods and calling it wherever we want with the help of that particular class object that is helping us reuse the code. But in HTML, if you want to reuse the already existing HTML, or if you want to have, call a HTML page which is already present somewhere else, then we use iframe tag. That is the reason inside, and iframe helps to display a HTML page inside another HTML page. This is making or this is separating our old HTML with the new HTML. Understood? Is it like calling? Yes, in Java, we are calling a method, but in HTML, if you want to reuse another HTML file, then we use iframe tag. Is that clear now, Bobby? Do we use? Yes, we use this for Selenium. That is the reason I'm explaining it. We use this for Selenium. We have to do some extra operations if there are iframes. So what are those extra operations and why should we do that? I'm going to tell now. Okay, if you understand what is iframe, then I can teach all those things. Right. Now this iframe is used to display another HTML document inside our HTML document. Right. Now, by default, when we are creating an object or when we are calling the WebDriver and when we are going to a particular URL, our control will be on this HTML page. Our control will be on this HTML page. Now, but all of a sudden, there is another HTML document within our HTML document. So since this is another HTML document, our control or our Selenium will not be able to move to this HTML page. It will be able to perform all the operations in this HTML, but it cannot go into this HTML because this is a separate document, right? It cannot go into this page. It cannot go into this HTML file and perform the operations. That is the reason we have to make our code move into this. Okay, I'll go back and I'll come into this frame and I'll run. Where did I use that? C3 class, I believe it's in C3. Yeah, this is drop downs, multi select. Yeah, in C4. See here, I used a frame. I'm commenting this. Okay, everything will be same. I just commented this line which I wrote extra in previous session. Now let me run this. Run as Java application. It opened this particular URL. It should actually perform the operations on this dropdown, but let's see what's happening. What did it say? What is the exception? No such element exception. Okay, which element is not present? Let's see here. Unable to locate an element. Which element? I want to see which element. CSS selector. You see, ID. Whose ID is cars? Whose ID is cars? You see, by.id cars. Now let us see whether it is not present on the HTML page. Control F, /* at the rate of ID is equals to car. Is it not present? It is present, right? You are able to see it, but our code is saying it is not present. Why? Because this is inside an iframe. Selenium will not be able to switch from parent HTML content to the child HTML content. It won't be able to switch directly. It won't be able to jump from this document to this document directly. So that is the reason we have to use some method. Okay, this is the default one, so that is why you are seeing it like that. Okay. Anyway, you don't need to worry about this HTML. You just see this cars. That's all. It is there, and you are also able to see this selected in blue color, right? It is the element is there, but still it says element not found exception, right? Why? Because that is unable to jump into, unable to move from our HTML page to this HTML page. Okay. So to move or to give the control over this HTML page, to get the control over the HTML page, we have to switch to this frame. Because this is a new frame, right? We have to switch to this frame. In the beginning days of my career, I wasn't aware of this frames concept. So there was an application which I was automating. I tried for around 1.5 days using different techniques. I thought, since I was a beginner, I thought I'm writing something wrong in the XPath, or I'm doing something wrong in the element locator, and tried all the ways by using its parent, by using its sibling, by using its child. I tried different ways and ran different ways, but it never passed. But it never performed the operation on the element which I was trying to. When I spoke to the developer of our internal framework or internal tool, they also tried for 1 day, and then later they understood after 2.5 days of struggle. They told me that this operation is not being performed because it is in a child HTML. Okay, whenever there is a separate HTML files, you have to switch your control from parent HTML to child HTML. That switching will happen with the frames concept. Okay, frame concept of Selenium. Okay, how do we identify iframes? We know, see here, it's pretty simple. This is a small page, so you are able to see it. Okay, now let me open. This is another set. I think we have seen already this. Okay, click on it. I'll click on sign in or sign up. Now inspect. Now you see, this is a little larger page, and you are able to see, you will be able to write XPath for these elements, and then you will be able to find this element. but this is also inside a frame. Now let me show you. I'll scroll up. You see, it's inside the iframe, right? So if you write code to enter some value here without switching to this frame, you will not be able to enter any text inside it because it is a frame. Now it will be difficult for us, right? Every time we are validating an element, or if every time we want to get the properties of an element, we are not going to check for the, we are not going to scroll top to the top to the bottom and see whether it is inside a frame. It will be difficult to see here, right? Then how do we do? How do we know that this element is in a frame? If you clearly observe, now I want to find this, or I want to click on the submit. So I am right clicking on it, and you see the options inside it. There is one extra, there are two extra options called as view frame source and reload frame. Do you see that? Okay, I'll click in some other area. Do you see the frame related options now? Do you see the frame related options? No, but when an element is in a frame, you will see the frame related options. Understood? This is how we identify that this element is in a frame. Is that clear? In all the browsers, we will have this frame related options. Now this is in Chrome. So Chrome is showing view frame source and reload frame. Let us go to Firefox and see the same URL. Or meanwhile, I'll also show here. Right click, you see frame related options. But if I see this cross mark, do you see frame related options? No, right? No, that means this cross mark is not inside the frame. The rest all is inside the frame. Okay. All right. Close this. Let us go to Firefox, and then let us see. Yeah. I'm opening this site. Sign up. Now you see, I want to inspect this. You see, there is an option related to the frame called this frame. Okay, I'll right click on this cross. Do you see any options related to the frame? No, right? So that is how we will be identifying whether a particular element is in frame or not. Is that clear? How do we identify frames?
Yes, Nikhil.
All the browsers will show that frame related options when we right click on it, except the Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer does not have any options when you right click on it to show the frames. So if your application is not supporting other browsers and you have to do it on only on IE, then there is no other way. We have to check we have to scroll up and see the HTML content, whether it is an iframe or not. There is no other way in IE other than this. But in all the other browsers, you will see options related to the frame. Clear? Is that clear? How do we identify frames? If yes, I can go and see, I can go and start. How do we move to these frames in Java or in Selenium, sorry. And what are all the methods available for us? We will see that. Okay. Shall we move ahead? Or any questions? Okay. Right then. So now let's see the methods available in Java, in Selenium. Okay. Going here. So I'll use this same code for W3 schools. I'm going to create a new class. New class. _. Here. Okay, I want to go into the same. Or now do you want me to work with red bus, or is this fine? Anything is fine, right? We are concentrating on the iframe options, whether it might be a red bus or here. Okay. Now switching to frame. Don't worry about the theoretical parts and notes. You have it here. Working with frames and windows. What is a frame? What are all things that you should know about frames? Everything, whatever we discussed now, it is already there here. Okay. How do we find this? How do we switch? What are the methods? The theoretical part is already written in notes. So I'll be sharing this. You don't have to worry about the theoretical part. What you want to see this? How do you identify these frames and all those things? Okay. Don't worry about this theoretical part. Right. Now, for working with frames, Selenium provided us 3 different methods. If you want to go to a frame, then we have to switch to that frame. First, we have to switch to that frame, then only we will be able to work with. So you see, when I type frame, there are 3 methods, which is taking integer. Okay. And the second one is taking a string parameter, and the third one is taking a web element parameter. First one is nothing but index. Okay. Switching to a frame using its index. Now, if you want to switch to a frame using its index, then you can use this. But generally in real time, we don't use this because index might get changed whenever there are new frames added, whenever there are some other frames got removed from the page. So this index is not stable, and so that is the reason we don't use this index in real time. Understood? Now, how do we find that index? Press Control F. Sorry, click here. Press Control F. /iframe. Now you see how many are there? 1 out of 10. Is this the frame that we are looking for? No. 2. Yes. This is the frame we are looking for, right? It is selecting it. And inside this, there is something else. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So none of these are pointing to our frame. These are all adds. You see it? Okay. 1, 2. So second one is our index. Now, since there are 8 adds, this became second index. But if there is only one add, then the index will be changed, right? So the number 2, that means the index position will be 1, right? Index starts from 0. Here the number is 2. So that means it is index position will be 1. You understood this? Or there is another way in the browser. You can go to this on the top. You see this console. We can click on it. Okay. And then I just want to clear all the warnings. And you see this. Okay. Okay, you see here. Here we'll type $X, and then inside this I'll mention double quotes and I'll say /iframe. How many is it showing now? Positions. There are 7 iframes. Okay. There are 7 iframes. Index 0. So this just index 0 and then index 1. You see, what is the index of ours? 1 only, right? If I am highlighting here, it is selecting the complete frame. So from here also we can verify our XPaths. Whatever you write, whatever the XPath you write, you can verify it from here. But for that, the syntax is you have to use $X, small braces, double quotes, and inside this you have to write your own XPath. For example, I want to find this. Select. Nothing, empty set is there because double slash. Select this might be inside another frame or inside some other place. Okay, so that is the reason. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this is inside an iframe, so that is the reason it is unable to find. Let's do something else. Okay, now it is getting. See it? Select cars. So you can also verify your X paths here, but let's forget about it. Now see the index position. Index is 1. Either you can get the index from here by typing like this, or go to the elements, just search for iframe. You will see lot of things here, and then go to each one and see which one is highlighting your frame. Second one is highlighting our frame, so the index will be 1. That is what I wrote. Understood? After switching to the frame, the remaining operations will be same. You don't have to do anything changed. Again, you can simply driver dot find element, and then you can perform the operations. The only extra line or only extra operation that you do is switch to that particular frame using its index. Is that clear how to use this switch to a frame using index? Is that clear? Okay, fine. Now this is one way, switching to a frame using its index, and then we have another, switching to a frame using ID, using its ID or name. Okay, we can switch to a frame using its ID, or but for that we need to have the ID or name attribute in for that frame. So let us see if we have that ID or name for this frame. Oh yeah, we have it, right? You see here, iframe result. We have an ID, we have a name. You see, there is an ID. So I can switch to this frame using its ID or using its name. Just copy this. I can say driver dot switch to dot frame of string parameter, the second one. Okay, give this double quotes and pass. That's all. Now this will switch to that particular frame. Okay, and last but not the least, switch to a frame using element. So what am I doing here? Okay, sorry, this is the string. I gave the name itself. Now we can also do it in a different way using its element. So how do we find using its element? Now what we have to do is we have to find this iframe element first. Okay, to find that iframe element, what we are going to do is driver dot find element by dot next path or ID or name or anything, whatever you want. I want to find it using its ID. What is the ID of it? Iframe. Okay, this is the web element. I will store it inside a web element. Frame is equals to. Now I want to switch to that frame, so I'm using driver dot switch to dot frame. Which frame? Using its element. So I'm going to use this drop down frame. That's all. This is another way of switching to a frame. So what are we doing here is we are first finding the iframe element using the Selenium. If we are not finding, we won't be able to find the elements inside this HTML, but we will be able to find this iframe because this iframe tag is present in our HTML, right? This iframe tag is present in our HTML. So I will be able to find this iframe, but I won't be able to find anything inside this HTML. So I found this iframe using my technique, that is either ID or name or XPath, or using its parent to child relation XPath. Okay, you can find any way. Somehow you have to find this iframe tag Once you find this iframe tag, then pass this iframe tag to the switch to frame method like this. Okay, I wrote it in 2 lines, but if you want to write it in a single line, you can just copy this, and instead of storing in a variable and passing it, you can directly pass it like this. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For one index, one iframe would be there, right? Then why do we need to find the element again?
Okay, I'll tell you. So if you observe not this, I'll go to this. Now for this iframe, you have ID or name. That is fine. That is cool. Now let us see some other sites.
No, my question is the index itself, the unique identity, right?
No, see, index is finding these are 3 different ways. I'm not saying you have to use all the 3. These are 3 different things. I'm just showing you 3 different things. You can use any one of these.
Okay.
Okay, but we don't use this index switching to frames using its index, because in real time we might face some issues. Sometimes it shows the index as 1. Sometimes it might be showing the index as 3. Because see, if you take this orange, take this side, this PayPal is the advertisement now. There might be some other advertisements here as well on the same page. You see Colgate, or these ads are getting changed, right? So each ad will be inside a frame. Now we are having 10 ads, so that is why it is in the second index. But if you are having less ads and if the page is changed, then the index will be changed, right? So that is why we will not try to switch to a frame using its index. We will either use this technique or we will either use this technique in real time. Mostly 99% of the time we will try to switch to a frame using its ID or name, or we will try to switch to a frame using its web element. Okay, we will find it as a web element and pass it. So first, why do we, then when we have this, why should we go for this? For all the frames, there is no hard rule that it should have an ID or name, right? So for this, we have an ID or name, but let's see if we have ID or name for this. Let's go to the iframe. You see here, do I have an ID or name for this? Do I have it? No, right? I do not have ID or name. So I cannot find this frame, or I cannot switch to this frame using its ID or name, or by passing a string attribute. Right? So in that case, I have to find this frame using element location technique, or by using XPath or CSS or anything, whatever we want. I can use some attributes like this class, or I can use the parent and then switch to its child. Right? I can find this element and pass that element to this switch to frame method. That's what we did. We can use either of these 3, any one of these 3, either this or this or this. We are not using all the 3 at once. Clear? Is your question clear, Bobby?
Yeah, but you are showing us 3 methods, but my question is okay, in that case, 5 index, 6 index, so the finding the index is a very good optimized way, correct?
Finding the index should be?
It's an optimized way, right? The easiest way, right?
No, that is the easiest way, but that is also a riskiest option to use. That is the riskiest option. The easiest way is using its ID or name, if it has an ID or name. But if it doesn't have ID or name, then we have to use this. If you are using index, that means you are writing fail prone code. That means your code will definitely fail at one or the other point.
Okay.
Okay, because these indexes will change from time to time, or if suppose the developer added one more extra frame to your page, then what will happen? You keep on changing the indexes.
So this each add we have the title.
Now we no, just observe here. Now earlier we used to have only 10 frames, but now you see 11.
Yeah.
So there are chances that our index positions, for now this position is same, but there are chances that the position of this frame gets changed, right?
I got it. So whenever it's added, it's going to be this key. I got it.
Exactly. Most of the sites use ads as a frames. So when those frames added and then that is interacting or that is disturbing this frame position, then obviously your index will fail, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the reason we will not use index. I know though it might be easy for you, but we will not use this index.
Yeah, but
Because
one more question. So those ads are dropping out, right? So
Yes.
how do you find the index for those ones which it is high?
can you repeat your question?
So the address is popping out, right? It's not stable, it's popping out. So, but still we can take the iframe for that.
Which one?
The iframe for the
Okay, this is the iframe.
for anything, any address popping out, right? So
I'm not getting your question, probably. Can you type it? Or if Sharap or Yanji heard it correctly, can you tell me what is her question?
I couldn't hear her properly as well.
Let's see what she's going to type. Okay. How can I figure it out which index goes to which frame? Babu, you are again asking the basic concept that we already did. Now, when we wrote XPath, you see, forget about iframe. Any element, if you want to find an element, for example, okay, here itself, if I want to find an element called input, I will write /input. How many of the elements are there input here? 3 elements. Now I want only one input, that is this submit. Okay, which one is it highlighting? Is it highlighting my submit button? No. I'll click enter. Now we are at 2 of 3, and let's see, is it highlighting my input button? No. 3 of 3. Now this yellow color, I'll hover over it. It is highlighting my input button. That's the index of my required position. Right? Yeah, same like element. There is no change. Same like element, you will use iframe. Okay, 1 of 11. This is not finding. When I hover over it, you see that the trailhead from Salesforce is getting highlighted. Now I'll click here again. You see the second one, which is highlighting our section. So this is our frame. That's all. 3 is not our frame. 4 is not our frame. 5 is not our frame. 6 not. 7 not. 8 no. 9 no. 10 no. 11 no. 1 no. 2 is our frame. That's all. Understood? Is your question clear, Bobby? Yes. Okay, cool. So this is how we use switch to frame methods. 1, using its index. 2, using its ID or name. Or third way is using its element location technique. We will find that iframe tag or iframe element. We will find this iframe. We can find this iframe, right? We can find this iframe using its XPath or CSS or any other attributes, and then pass this as an element to this method. Switch to frame method. Then it will automatically switch to that frame. So these are the 3 different ways Okay. Now we have learned a little about the frames. It's 8:20. If you have any questions, please let me know on the frames or the synchronization. I'll answer those questions. If not, I'll continue with these frames and go ahead. Any questions on how to identify the frames? Why should we switch to these frames? Or synchronization concepts, explicit wait, implicit wait, web driver wait, fluent wait, and thread.sleep. Can we do it tomorrow? What? Okay, you want to continue tomorrow on frames? Sure. What about Yanji, Sharab? Have any questions?
No, Nikhil, we're good.
Okay. All right then. So can we do the rest of the frames concept tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Bye bye. Have a great day. Sorry, have a great sleep.
Bye. Thank you.